Hi, this is Jcolucciello, and this week for Module 6, we were asked to do an informal discussion regarding some early adulthood development in a couple different aspects. My office is currently shut down for COVID, and my husband is away from a death in the family, and it's just him and I and the cat at home. So I decided to go ahead and just do this as a discussion for myself, answering the questions. And if my cat decides to get involved, she's more than welcome. So from a political and religious development standpoint, 3 questions were posed. And how do early adults form political and religious perspectives? This is quite interesting, especially as we grow up. We start with more of a view from what our parents or our caregivers are leaning towards. They tend to bring you up with the same views. But as we mature, that obviously starts to change based on our own experiences. Specifically from the religious perspective, that has definitely something that goes from a rituals and a practice-based concept to answering actual questions, almost like spirituality, answering the questions at hand and deciding what morals and values and ethics and things that apply, and what weight do we give to those specific religious practices, almost from the man-made side of things. I'll talk about more about that in a second, but the political aspect actually is probably a little bit easier. Obviously, grow up being almost tailored toward certain views based on our parents, and as we start to experience things, we start to see some differences. My parents, for instance, are extremely Republican, very far right, very, very conservative, and they, unfortunately, and maybe this is a generational thing, but they definitely have a harder time being more accepting and open of different things. They believe what they believe, and they think it's right, and everything else is wrong from a political standpoint, and to be honest, also from a religious standpoint, whereas I tend to not look at things like that. They also tend to feel that their beliefs and their views are correct, and that there should be consequences if they don't follow those. Almost as if everybody else who's different is somehow wrong, and that comes with negative consequences. Personally, that's a foreign thing for me. With them actually being very conservative, they actually are Southern Baptist and all that entails. And growing up, even simple things in high school, I remember getting in trouble for listening to REM, the music group, which is relatively tame music. And I remember getting grounded and punished severely for that. I remember a commercial came on one time, and it had just a really good beat to it. It had some good music, nothing crazy. I don't even remember what the commercial was. And I, in the middle of just doing other things, heard the music in the background, just started moving a little bit to the music, nothing risque. I think I was 14 or 15 at the time. And again, I can remember getting harshly punished for that. The dancing is wrong, and how, it's inappropriate, and all these different things. And here at almost 50, I can still picture those moments viscerally. And to be honest, those impacts, those specific items probably oversaw more of my political and religious perspectives, even to date, than anything else. It started not so much as what I did believe, but what as I did not believe in. I don't think it's right to necessarily punish people for being different than you. Obviously, if somebody commits murder or something else, that's different. But I don't think just because they're different means that they're wrong. That's just foreign to me. And then as I've grown and started to experience other things, and let's face it, a lot of politics is money-based. And as I've grown in the ranks of my career and made more money, and I've watched my tax bracket increase, that can shape your political view, not necessarily because of all of the other items involved in politics, but simply because I'd like to keep more of the money that I have worked so hard for in my pocket. But it's interesting because I know my view today has changed from even 5 years ago. And I'm certainly not in my adolescent time, but I think we continue to learn and develop and grow as we learn more and as we see more and as the world around us changes. From a gender identity and sexuality component, these are confounding to a lot of different people. It's interesting how many people don't realize the difference between gender and sex. And in the healthcare world, we deal with that a lot of times. I know growing up Baptist, though, my family definitely looked at it as a very, very cut and dry item. Obviously, I was born with female reproductive parts. That means I'm a girl and I'm supposed to be attracted to men. That's very, very interesting and very, very one-sided. And it's interesting, especially as we go through puberty, there are so many different things that are uncomfortable to begin with, but then you add in some other components of either feeling a little too masculine or not, or a little too feminine, or just not comfortable in your own skin, or just the feeling like something else fits a little bit better, and whatever that may be, a hairstyle or what your body looks like and so forth. I think these things they're relatively fluid, and I think they almost are at a person by person basis. It's interesting to know that I don't think any of this is finalized. For instance, my mother-in-law, who gave birth to my husband about 20 years ago, came out as a lesbian, and now she is adamantly against men, which is a separate issue. But that definitely changes. The concepts that are around gender and sexuality are very complicated and intricate. And I think the more we try to think about them as a whole, people seem to get lost in what they think and what they feel. And I honestly, from a healthcare perspective, I think it's important to remember that it's not about us. Each individual person should be able to decide for themselves what their gender is, how they identify, and what their sexuality looks like. And to be honest, our sexuality changes as we grow. As a victim and a survivor, honestly, of sexual assault, I can say that it actually took me quite a while to understand and to be comfortable with some of the responses that my body had during the attack. And only recently, in the last couple of years, have I started to actually like some of the harder side of things. This is definitely not something I would have expected 20 years ago or even 10, but it's definitely something that is fluid and changes. From the cultural development side, wow, there are so many different things that impact us as we go through that range of thinking about ourselves and what we need and what we want and what we want to do. And then we start to develop into that concept of my actions and what I say and do impacts those around me. As we grow, that circle becomes larger and larger and larger. And then we're able to think about those impacts and strategies and efforts, not just on a immediate circle basis and not just on a peer group at a school or a work, but we're able to think about them larger from a full community standpoint. And what they truly mean from an impact perspective, very abstractly even. This is something that takes time and effort, and it does take some maturity, which is not always there. I mentioned in some of the posts this week the difference between my almost 18-year-old nephew Wyatt and my 28-year-old stepson Michael. And it's interesting to see that Wyatt, the 18-year-old, is already thinking long-term about some of these bigger impact items, more so than my 28-year-old stepson. I think part of the contribution to that is in the parenting. For instance, my brother and sister-in-law, who are the parents of Wyatt, they have 5 children. Wyatt is the oldest. They have 2 sets of twins, younger than him. One set is 14 and the other set is 11. My brother also is a Southern Baptist minister, so everything they do is really wrapped up in the community of their church and of the people that they minister to. While my brother is a Southern Baptist minister and they are conservative in several things, one thing I do like about how he approaches religion and his church is that he is very community driven about what they can do to contribute back to the community and help those that are less fortunate. They do a lot of work with homeless or needy families. They participate in getting victims of domestic abuse to safe places. They just do a lot with those in their community that are in need. And I think them living that as role models and embracing that and bringing their children in to see that has really helped Wyatt to understand that component. And he's already there helping with many different things. He actually already participates as a volunteer with Habitat for Humanity and does a couple other different community projects. And he's 18 and still has the 4 kids underneath him and still has to decide on school and so forth. Whereas my stepson, when we one time went to go volunteer for a Cancer Society function, asked him if he wanted to come, and he said it wasn't going to benefit him. So basically, what was the point? So I think this is definitely, it's something that needs to be emulated, and it needs to be a lead by example construct. I think Wyatt will have a better time during his journey and as he continues to grow, because he's already communicating better with people and he interfaces better with people. His communication skills are better. He is more sympathetic and empathetic and caring. Whereas Michael at 28 and a practicing physician assistant is still having problems, and some of these communication skills and empathy skills and some of the lacking items actually are already being evident in some of his patient reviews and so forth. These are some heavy topics, and I think the underlying thing for everybody to remember is there is a basic timeline, but honestly, they're very fluid, and it depends on so many different components, and it definitely takes everybody around an individual to help them get to where they need and should be, and to be honest, if they want to continue or not, to grow and develop as a person that's contributing to the world around them in a good way. Obviously, from media and the news, we can see that lots of other people have not quite figured this out yet. So we are a work in progress. I know that this is a little longer than the asked for 6 to 8 minutes, but here are also some references, and I will upload the PowerPoints just for the few slides along with the video. Thank you.